Awesome. Well, good morning, guy and gal. We're going to go ahead and start today on our backs. We're going to go back to, I don't know, a more simple way to start. So you're just going to start on your back. And first things first, just notice what it feels like to receive the support beneath you. Noticing how the floor really catches your body, noticing where it catches your body, and then allow yourself in those points of contacts, maybe in the shoulders, the hips, the heels, to just descend a little bit more weight into the floor beneath you. And we'll take the next minute or so to just take 3 to 5 slow breaths, maybe allowing the exhalation to have an audible quality to it as you continue to just soften the bones into the floor, melt the muscles around the bones, and just allow yourself to be here. But as you take these last few breaths here, I'd like you to notice where else you can continue to relinquish any tension in the body, where you can continue to just open to the receiving of your breath, noticing the support that the breath provides. And then allow yourself to check in with the mouth and the eyes and make sure those places are soft as well. Now, the first few shapes that we're going to take today are just really for you to just see what the breath is doing at this point in time. So if your legs are straight, go ahead and bend your knees. Plant your feet firmly on the floor, hip distance apart, and then draw your right knee into your chest. You might take a few little hip circles here, noticing what it feels like to move the knee maybe towards one shoulder and then the other, maybe actually doing a full circle, maybe just doing a half semicircle, but you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what it feels like in this moment. Just wake up the hips. And then when you feel balanced between all that, you'll go ahead and come to stillness. Allow your left leg to open to the left, open your right knee to the right, and take half happy baby here. You might bring that right hand to the inside edge of the right thigh as you flex through the right foot and hold on to the right foot. But you'll just take 3 to 5 breath cycles here, really allowing the left leg to just flop to the left and breathing as wide as you can across the pelvis and the low back. And you're just checking in and noticing how long the breath is here. We've got about 1 to 2 more breath cycles here, seeing if we can find a sense of equanimity and ease to the inhalation and equanimity and ease to the exhalation. And then very gently, you'll draw your left knee back to center, cross the right ankle over the top of the left thigh, thread your hands through the hole and grab the back of your leg for figure four, Sukhi Randrasana. And you'll just pause here. And again, you've got about 4 to 5 breath cycles here. As you continue to press that right ankle against the top of the left thigh, you can pull that left thigh towards your face. But again, you're just noticing how long is the in breath. How long is the out breath? Where can you soften into the floor beneath you? I don't know about you, but for me, there's this notion that I tense up when I think that there's something that I have to do all by myself. But if I can really remember that there are individuals and things around me that can support me, it gives me the opportunity to soften and to settle just a little bit. So at the end of your next exhalation, I'd like you to see where you can soften just a bit more. And then you'll gently release your hands, draw that left foot to the floor, keep the legs exactly as they are, and then push down through the left foot, lift your pelvis up, slide your bum over to the right, and put your butt back down. Let the legs fall over towards your left, so the right sole of the foot comes to the floor, and the outer left thigh comes to the floor. From here, you might grab your right ankle, you might press into the top of the right thigh with your left hand, and you'll just take a moment to pause here. Yep. So other hand, Sandy, and rotate perhaps to the right. Here we go. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe. On your next in breath, you'll gently release and come back to center. Re-square your shoulders over your hips. And then just take a moment to take a few little pelvic rocks as both feet are planted on the floor. And you notice what your pelvis is doing here. Notice if you notice a difference between the right and the left side. With these little pelvic rocks forward and back, see how that feels in your low back, especially. Great. And then go ahead and come to stillness, and we'll try all that on the other side. So draw your left knee into your chest. And you might start with just taking small little semicircles with the hip. You might take a giant circle with the hip, but you're just pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what it feels like to be in your body at this point in time. One of the things I find interesting is that sometimes it seems that we define support in very particular ways. Like it looked like one thing in the past, and so it must look the same going forward, but it changes, you know? And I just want to be attentive to how that changes. Once you're complete with all your movement, go ahead and come to stillness. Allow that right leg to flop out to the right, open the left knee to the left, and take half happy baby, Ardha Ananda Balasana. And you'll just notice what you notice here. Can you take in long, steady breaths into the pelvis, into wherever you feel sensation, perhaps on the inner left thigh, maybe the outer left hip. And then notice if you're holding any tension in your shoulders and your mouth or in any other part of your face. You've got one more breath cycle here. Where can you soften and where can you surrender just a little bit of the energy? Great. Draw your right knee back to vertical, cross the left ankle over the top of the right thigh, and then thread your hands through the whole of your legs. Grab the back of the right thigh or front of right shin, and you've just got about 4 to 5 breath cycles here. And again, you might notice that the more you press that right knee into the left outer ankle and pull the left foot towards the left knee and push the left ankle against the right thigh, you might find more sensation on that outer left hip. But again, you're just pausing and you're breathing. Even as you experience this forward fold, how can you let go of too much efforting, enough that you feel sensation, but not so much that you're overexerting yourself? At the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently release the hands. Draw the right foot to the floor. Then push down through the right foot, lift your pelvis up and slide your pelvis over towards the left. Put your bum back down and let the legs fall over to the right. And as the legs go over to the right, perhaps the sole of the left foot comes to the floor. Right hand might come into the belly of the left thigh and push the left knee up to the sky, or you might hold on to that left ankle. So you're just pausing and breathing and noticing what you notice happening here. Got one more breath cycle. And then very gently, you'll come back onto your backs, release both feet firmly on the floor. And then take a moment to take a few of those pelvic rocks, pelvic nutations, just going forward and back like you're taking little mini cats and cows, just with the base of the spine to see what that feels like in the low back. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and pause and come to stillness. Extend your arms alongside your hips and make sure your feet are still hip distance apart. Great. Now, as you inhale, push through the feet, reach up through the arms, lift your hips high. Yep. And then as you exhale, keep the hands overhead, but slowly lower the spine back down to the floor, bone by bone. On your next in-breath, push through the feet, lift the hips high. And then exhale, hands and hips come back to the starting point. We'll do about 4 sets of these. So that was one set. And you'll inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips, lift the arms. Exhale, reach out through the fingers as you lower the spine back to the floor, bone by bone. When you need to, you'll inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips. And then exhale, hands and hips come back to the floor. And you've got 2 more times on your own. As you do this, I encourage you to see how long you can make your inhalation. Maybe it becomes 5 or 6 counts. And then notice if you can match the exhalation. So then it becomes perhaps 5 or 6 counts. And then you'll just repeat that. Maybe the in-breath is 5 or 6 counts, lifting the hips. And then the exhalation will be 5 or 6 counts, lowering the hands, lowering the hips. And then you'll do that one more time. You might stay at that breath pace or elongate the inhalation by 1 count. And then you'd correspondingly lengthen the exhalation by 1 count. Awesome sauce. And then the next exhale, your hands will come back alongside your hips. Your pelvis will be on the floor. And you'll just take a moment to pause and to breathe. And just check in and see what you see. From here, you'll go ahead and bend your elbows like little robots so your fingers point up towards the sky. Walk the shoulders up towards your ears and draw the shoulder blades underneath you. Yep. From here, inhale, push down through the elbows, push down through the heels, lift your hips high. And then as you exhale, you might walk those shoulders even closer underneath you. You might extend your arms long and interlace the hands underneath your low back. And you'll just take about 3 to 4 breath cycles here. Again, you're pressing into the big toes, lengthening the inner thighs towards the floor as the tailbone reaches forward. And you're noticing how long your inhalation is and how long your exhalation is. It's very interesting that our breath provides us with so much support and we don't even have to pay attention to it 3/4 of the time. That's probably a good thing. But right now, we're just paying attention to that, noticing how we can just fall into awareness of this support that we receive moment by moment, even when we're asleep. The end of your next exhalation, you'll gently unclasp your hands, untuck the shoulders, and bring your pelvis back to the floor and pause. Just notice what you notice. Where's the breath in the body? Where do you feel the most sensation? Go ahead and extend your right arm alongside your ears and roll over onto your right side. Take a moment to pause here. And then let's see if you can extend both legs long beneath you so you're lying on your side of straight line. Yep. Bend your top knee, your left knee, and reach around and grab it with your left hand. We're just doing a little baby quad stretch here. And you'll see if you can continue to roll the inner thighs towards each other. Yep. Lengthen your left knee down towards your right foot. Lengthen your tailbone down to your left knee. And just see how your quaddies are doing today. Very gently, you'll release that left foot. Roll onto your abdomen. And then continue to roll over onto your left side. The same thing on the other side, bending the top knee, your right knee, grabbing the heel with your right hand, and then making sure that the knees are in line with each other. The inner thighs roll in towards each other, and that tailbone is scooping down towards the right knee. Awesome sauce. We got about 1 more breath cycle here, just seeing how the quad is doing. And very gently you'll release that and make your way back onto your bellies. Now, when you find yourself on your abdomen, go ahead and extend your hands back alongside your hips and turn your palms to face down. Separate your feet about hip distance apart, and then press into the tops of the feet, pressing down particularly into the pinky toenails and your big toenails. Lift up through your inner thighs and lengthen your tailbone back. Now we're going to take this very slowly, but the next time you inhale, you'll draw your shoulders up to your ears and draw your shoulder blades onto your back. As you exhale, just lift your head so your ears are in line with your shoulders. Great. Now as you inhale, lengthen your tailbone back, put your crown forward and see if you can lift up just a little bit. And then as you exhale, pubic bone to belly button. And we've got 3 more breath cycles like this. So inhale, tailbone back and crown reaches forward to come up. And then exhale, pubic bone to belly button. And 2 more. Inhale, lengthen tailbone back, inner thighs back, crown forward. And exhale, low belly draws in, shoulder blades hug onto back body. Last one. Inhale, tailbone lengthens back, crown reaches forward, toes reach back. And then exhale, low belly draws in. Great. We're going to stay at this height. You might lift your hands to hover off the floor. Bend the elbows slightly and draw your shoulder blades onto your back. Now, as you're here, see if you can reach your sternum forward, reach your crown forward, but keep lengthening that tailbone back. You might choose to keep your feet on the floor or reach so far back through your toes that they float up and away from the floor. Again, the emphasis is keeping length in the low back, so tailbone keeps reaching back with every inhale. Pubic bone keeps drawing in and up with every exhale. You got 1 more breath cycle here. And on your next exhale, you'll just slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Bring an ear to the mat and just take a moment to pause and take a moment to breathe. Awesome sauce. Bring your hands alongside your lowest ribs. Go ahead and come up to hands and knees, and we'll take a moment to pause. You might want to flip around so your bums aren't to the camera. And then from here, make sure your hands are about shoulder distance apart, toes tucked under. Inhale, gaze forward a bit. And then exhale, push your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Next in-breath, you'll go ahead and come down to hands and knees. And then exhale, press back to downward facing dog. So we're going to take about 5 of these. I want you to start working with your breath. So maybe your next in-breath will be a 5-count inhalation down to hands and knees. Yep. And then a 5-count exhalation back to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And then the next one might be a 6-count inhalation down to tabletop, Vidalasana. And then maybe a 6-count exhalation back to Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And so you've got 2 more sets. Perhaps you work to lengthen the breath to 7 counts, and then perhaps 8. But again, you're just noticing what you notice. You can press in and receive the support of the floor in order to lift your tukhas high. And you can receive the support of the breath in order to make the movement a bit slower and a little bit more contained. Nice job. The next time you're in downward facing dog, you'll just go ahead and stay there for about 3 breath cycles. And I would like you to just observe how long your breath is. Can it still be that long, steady 8-count breath? I think our breath in many instances can be like our best friend, the one that always shows up right when we need it. But we still need to spend some time checking in with it. So as you're here for these last 2 breath cycles, you might slowly bend one knee and slowly bend the other, and notice how that impacts your breath, how that impacts the support that you're receiving from the floor, from your hands, from your feet, from your core. When you feel pretty balanced between all your wiggles, you'll just go ahead and come back to a still neutral spot. Awesome sauce. All right, let's go ahead and inhale, roll the spine forward into Phalangasana plank pose. And then you'll exhale and stay here. We're going to stay here for about 4 breath cycles. I'd like you to see if you can make your inhalation about 8 counts and your exhalation about 8 counts. And if that seems a little bit too pushy, be with the breath as long as the breath wishes to be. So maybe it's 3 counts in and 3 counts out, or maybe it's 6 counts in or 6 counts out. Whatever it is, can you let the inhalation and the exhalation be the same length? Nice job. When you're ready, you'll exhale and bend your knees and then lift your hips high, downward facing dog, and pause. Great. Okay. Step your feet in just a little bit. I'm sorry, closer towards each other instead of in towards your face. There we go. And then inhale, lift your right leg up and back. And then exhale, slowly step that foot between your hands. Pause here. Highly encourage the use of blocks underneath your hands, but you do what works for you. And then you'll inhale and gaze forward. And exhale, start to straighten your front leg long. And we've got about 4 sets of these. So this next one might be an inhalation for 5 counts, coming forward into that low lunge, reaching back through the left foot. And then exhale, scooping the belly, maybe 5 counts, folding into your right shin. And then you can continue at that pace if that's a good breath count for you, or maybe make it 6 counts to slowly come into your low lunge. And then maybe 6 counts, folding back into this modified pyramid. And you've just got 2 more sets for you, and you're working to just notice how the breath can really support the slowing down of this movement. And the slowing down of this movement really starts to support the opening of different parts of the body, the awakening of different parts of the body. Nice work, guys. After your next exhalation, you'll go ahead and stay in that modified pyramid pose for about 3 to 4 breaths. You might peel the sole of your right foot up and away from the floor. You might walk the blocks back so they're directly underneath your shoulders, but continue to just notice the breath. Draw that outer right hip back and breathe very consciously, very deliberately. Nice work, guys. Go ahead and inhale, come forward to low lunge. Now, your choice. You can step your left foot slightly to the left and spin it down for warrior 1, or you can come up for high crescent, but we're going to get there in stages. So next in breath, your heart and sternum will reach forward. As you exhale, start to airplane your arms back alongside your hips. Yep. Now we're going to unroll that carpet. So inhale, your arms are going to reach forward to come up and overhead. And then exhale, you're going to airplane those arms back and hinge at the hips. Yep, and we got 4 of these. So inhale, unrolling the carpet, bringing the arms up the spine all the way to vertical. Front knee stays bent. Yep, and exhale, airplaning the arms, hinging just slightly at the hips. Yep, we got 2 more. We're just noticing what we notice as we unfurl the arms and reach them up. And exhale, belly to spine, arms reach back. And last one, inhale will come up, and you'll just go ahead and stay here. You might clasp the hands or just reach up through the fingers, but think of lifting the ribs up and away from the waist up and away from the hips, hugging your feet together, hugging your outer hips together. Take a breath in. And then on your next exhale, frame the front foot. Step back, downward facing dog, and pause. Notice what you notice. How is the breath? How do you receive the support of the floor underneath your fingers and the tips of your fingertips? And on your next in-breath, let's go ahead and tuck chin to chest and roll our spine forward into plank pose, Balangasana. Pause here. Lengthen your tailbone back, reach your feet back, reach your crown forward. On your next exhalation, shift your weight forward and hover in Chaturanga for 1 breath. You'll inhale and come back up to plank. And then exhale, bend the knees, hips high, downward facing dog, 3 breaths. And as you're here, keep hollowing out your armpits. So your inner armpits lift up. Yep, your triceps wrap down. And you can use that support of the shoulders into the back to push the floor away and lift the hips a little higher. Nice, guys. All right, let's go ahead and try the other side. Inhale, lift your left leg up and back. And as you exhale, quietly step that foot between your hands. Pause here. Blocks might be very useful. And then you'll inhale, gaze forward, reaching heart forward, sternum forward, crown forward. And then exhale, start to straighten your front leg, melt your sternum to your front shin bone. And you've got about 4 more sets of these, inhaling, coming forward. And again, maybe this one's about 5 or 6 counts coming into that. And then maybe 5 or 6 counts pressing the leg to straight. And we're just working really with lengthening the breath so we can start to stabilize our mind. We have a lot of stories and narratives that tend to come up, but the more that we can really calm the mind, we can notice the support that is around us at all points in time. We can appreciate the people, we can appreciate the tasks that we get to do, the challenges we get to face. It's kind of funny. I think when we're in the middle of a challenge, we don't think that something's helping building us up, but a lot of the teachings say that that's what's going on. Okay, the next time you're back and your front leg is straight, you'll just take a moment to pause there for 4 breath cycles. Continue to press your left sit bone towards your left big toe. Lift up through that inner right thigh, and then see how you can find space in the front of your body, specifically around the belly and the heart and the head. You might peel the left sole of the foot up and away from the floor. And you just pause and you breathe and say, hello, hamstrings. Thank you for providing me with support and moving me through my day. On your next in-breath, go ahead and shift your weight forward, come to that low lunge. You might step your right foot a little bit to the right and spin it down for warrior one, and you might stay exactly as you are, but keep that front knee bent. And then inhale, reach your heart and sternum forward. As you exhale, airplane those arms back alongside your hips. Nice job. And then inhale, start to unroll your yoga mat, reach the arms forward to come up. And then exhale, hinge at the hips, front ribs to back body, belly button to spine. And you got about 4 more of those. Inhaling, reaching the arms forward to come up. Yep. And exhaling, drawing them back. Nice work. And you're just noticing what you notice. Does the breath become a little bit easier each time you inhale? Can you extend the spine a little bit more as you exhale? Nice. You guys are in sync with each other. Next in breath, go ahead and come up into that warrior one or high crescent lunge. You've got about 3 to 4 breath cycles. So push down into both feet, hug them in, lift your fingers up to lift your ribs up, to lift your waist up, to lengthen the tailbone down. You got 1 more breath cycle here. On your next exhalation, frame the front foot, step back, downward facing dog, and pause. And you'll just notice how long your breath is now. How steady, how smooth. Our breath is said to connect to our unconscious state. So we want to really start to make some of those things conscious. All right. Go ahead and inhale and come forward into plank pose. As you exhale, shift to chaturanga. Listen closely. Inhale, come to up dog, but keep your toes tucked under. Lengthen your tailbone back. Yep. Keep your inner thighs lifted. Next exhale, go back to chaturanga. Belly in, belly in, belly in, belly in. Inhale into plank. Nice job, guys. Exhale, hips high, downward facing dog. Notice what you notice with all that. Where did you feel a sensation? Where did you feel the back body needed to come in to support that shape happening? Awesome sauce. Let's go ahead and add on. Inhale, gaze to the top of your space. As you exhale, bend the knees, empty the belly, step or jump top of mat. Nice. Once you get to the top of your space, go ahead and separate your feet about hip distance apart. And then let's go ahead and inhale, slide your fingers up your shins, lift your spine halfway. Fingers might even come to thighs. Bend your knees as much as you need to feel like you can blossom your buttocks behind you. It really feels like you're spreading your tail feathers really wide. And then notice that you can now draw your front ribs into your back body as you keep your spine long. So just as we did in that locust pose, you'll inhale and tailbone will go back. And as you exhale, the pubic bone comes to the belly button to keep the low back long. You got one more breath cycle here, noticing that shoulders can come away from your ears. Yep, awesome sauce. Listen closely. As you exhale, start to bend your knees. Keep your spine this flat and see if you can touch your fingers to the floor. Bend your knees, spine stays this flat. Yay! Now inhale here. As you exhale, sweep your arms back alongside your hips, little airplane arms. Yep. Draw the shoulder blades onto your back body. Next, in breath, start to bring your spine to vertical and sit your butt to chair. Yep. From there, you'll take one more breath cycle here. And on your next in breath, your arms will start to reach forward and up. Yep. Now, just as we did when we were in high crescent lunge, I want you to reach out through your pinky fingers so that you can lift your ribs up and away from your waist. Lift the waist up and away from the hips. Continue to press down through your feet. And then you've just got 3 to 5 breath cycles here, noticing where you need to send breath to provide support to you in this moment. So if you're feeling anything in your low back, notice what happens if you lengthen the tailbone down a little bit more and maybe reach up through the fingers a little bit more. And really trust the support that the feet are providing into the floor and the knees are tracking forward. You got one more breath cycle here. Next inhalation, you'll stand up, reach up, look up. And just take a moment to pause. Tailbone lengthens down, crown reaches up, fingers reach up. And exhale, lower the arms. And take a moment to pause. Hello, Tadasana. Fidget around in any way that you need to, just to feel okay in your being and in your body. Awesome sauce. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and step to the top of our space. I want you to make sure your blocks are somewhere near the outer edges of your mat, so you can use them for a kickstand if you'd like. Yep. Great. Yep. Roberta knows where we're going. So you're going to go ahead and start by inhaling and opening your arms out to the right and to the left. Go ahead and wrap your right arm on top, your left arm underneath, and give yourself a hug. And from there, lift the elbows in line with the shoulders, and maybe you stay here, maybe you release the tension a little bit. You might bring the backs of the hands to touch, or draw the fronts of the palms to touch. Now from here, inhale, bend your knees and sit your pelvis low. And as you exhale, start to lift your left leg up, cross your left thigh over. Maybe it touches the block on the right side. Maybe it tacks behind the back of your right calf. But you're just going to pause and you're going to breathe. Notice that with that support of the floor underneath you and perhaps the block, you can get one type of support. You can also get another if you push your outer shin bones together, if you lift your elbows up, if you allow the tailbone to descend down. Nice. When you're ready, you'll inhale and slowly come out of this shape. Awesome sauce. Let's go ahead and step back 1 foot behind the blocks. I like that entrance better. Okay, so this time you're going to step forward with your left foot. Lift your right leg up in front of you. Cross your right thigh over and let the right foot rest on the block. Great. From there, you can open the arms out to the right and to the left. This time, let the left arm come on top, the right arm underneath, and maybe you stay here giving yourself a hug. Maybe you lift your elbows up. Maybe backs of palms touch. Maybe fronts of palms touch. And then you can bend that left knee as much as you want to, maybe releasing the right foot to the back of your left calf. And then notice how this form of support felt. How did coming into eagle this way feel? And you'll just pause and you'll breathe. One is not better than the other. I think things show up when we need them in the way that we need them. And the way that we can adjust is just to be okay with that. Easier said than done. Very gently, you'll inhale and unwind and come back to stand at the top of your space. Awesome sauce. All right, let's go ahead and turn to face the long edge of your mat. And then just separate your feet about 3 to 4 feet apart. Bring your hands to your hips. And then bring your hands to the backs of your bums so you're touching your sit bones in the back of the body. Great. Inhale here. And then exhale, start to fold into Prasarita Padottanasana. Hands slide all the way down to the backs of the ankles. And then you'll inhale and come up halfway, back of heart leads, hands slide up the backs of the legs. And then exhale, fold all the way back in. Then you'll just do that part 2 more times. So you'll inhale halfway, lift hands, slide up, heart reaches forward. Nice. Exhale, fold all the way in. Inhale, come up halfway, heart reaches forward. Yeah, that looks good, guys. And exhale, fold all the way in. And then now you'll just stay here and you might release the hands to the floor underneath the shoulders. Sandy, I wonder what would happen if you walked your feet a little wider. Does that feel better? Okay. And then you'll just take a moment to pause and breathe here. You might choose to stay in stillness. You might choose to bend one knee and then the other. So to Roberta's point, sometimes support feels like a little bit of movement happening. And sometimes it feels like stability. Sometimes it feels like just a sense of stillness. And so in this moment, you're just noticing what you notice, what feels most appropriate to you now. Awesome sauce. If you're in movement, go ahead and come to center once you're balanced between both sides. Great. From here, let's go ahead and inhale halfway lift. This time, fingers just underneath your shoulders. Pause here, bend your knees like you're a football player getting ready to hike the ball. Okay. Then from here, bring one hand to one hip, another hand to the other hip. Draw the shoulders onto the back, reach the crown forward. And then you'll inhale, come up to vertical. Now from here, spin your heels in, your toes out. Bring your hands to heart center and bend your knees. Awesome. And you'll just take a moment to pause here. You might choose to just hang out here the whole time. You might release your hands down to your thighs. And you might take a gentle twist one way to the other. You might also just choose to just stay in stillness. So you can, a little spinal rotation. That's fun. Lots of little cracks happening now. And you'll just pause and you'll breathe. And when you feel balanced between both sides, you'll come to stillness. You might shift the weight a little bit right to left, feeling how that feels. And then once you're pretty done with all your wiggles, hands will come back to heart center. We're going to pause here. I want you to push down through the big toes, squeeze your outer hips in, push your sternum into your thumbs, and lengthen the tail down as the crown reaches up. And we're going to stay here for about 5 more breath cycles. And you'll just notice your breath, noticing the support that you're actually receiving in this moment by pushing down through the big toes, squeezing your outer hips in. And at the end of your next exhalation, start to push through the feet, straighten the legs long. Turn the toes in so the legs are parallel. And then you can step or float your feet together. Float your feet together. That'd be hilarious. Step or walk your feet together. Step or jump your feet together. There's the word. Great. And then let's come to face the top of our space. Awesome sauce. All right, we're going to do one Surya Namaskar A. Inhale, circle, sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, fold forward at your hips. Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, Ardha Uttanasana. And then exhale, bend your knees, plant your palms, step or float back, Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale through an upward facing dog or cobra. And then exhale back to downward facing dog. 3 breaths. For some of us, that simple sequence can be a source of comfort, a source of support. And you'll just observe and notice what you notice here. Next inhalation, let's come forward onto hands and knees. Draw your big toes to touch and open your knees as wide as you want. Come for child's pose, Balasana. Arms can reach forward, or if you'd like, you can swing the arms back behind you for embryo pose. But you'll just pause and you'll just breathe. Awesome sauce. Your hands are back behind you. Bring them underneath your shoulders. If your hands are forward, walk them back. Bring your spine up to sit and put your bum on the floor. You might sit on a blanket or not. I'm sitting on a zafu right now, but that's not necessary. I'll sit on the floor. And then just go ahead and take a simple sukhasana, simple cross-legged pose. We're going to take the smallest twist on the face of the planet. So your right hand is going to come back behind your right hip a little bit more to the right versus behind you. And then the left hand is going to come to the top of the left knee. Inhale, lengthen up through your spine. And as you exhale, you'll just start to slowly rotate towards the right. And by the smallest twist on the face of the planet, what I mean by that is I want you to see how much you can allow the twist to just unfurl, to slowly reveal itself. One of the interesting things about the body is it does naturally support us doing particular movements if we just allow it to reveal itself to us. So you've got about 4 more breath cycles here, and you're allowing the twist to start to reveal itself, meaning the exhalation is really what's allowing the body to twist to the right. The inhalation is keeping the length through the vertebra. And maybe you might find that at some point in time, that twist has gone all the way through the spine, even making its way into the cervical spine. And then very gently, you'll inhale and unwind and come back to center and just take a moment to pause. Pause, 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 and just notice what you notice. We didn't really force too much, but you might have felt something different than you ordinarily would. Okay, let's switch sides. So switch the cross of your ankles. Draw your right hand to your left knee, your left hand over to the left, maybe slightly behind you. And then again, you'll lift up through the spine with a big breath in. And then exhale, start to slowly, slowly rotate towards your left. It's almost like we had one of those slow motion camera film things going on right now. So you're just allowing it to slowly transform, noticing that in many instances you have to soften to receive the unwinding of the spine as you're, ironically enough, winding the spine. And then on your next in-breath, you'll gently come back through center. And you'll pause and you'll just notice what you notice. And then you'll gently uncross the legs, extend the legs long, and make your way onto your backs. I encourage you to make sure you have a block somewhere or blocks somewhere easily accessible to you, blanket as well. And then the first thing that you'll do is just simply draw your right knee into your chest, extend or bring your hands to the back of your right thigh and start to reach your right leg up towards the sky. You might then find that you can push the right thigh forward, pull the hands back, and you might extend the left leg long, or you might keep the left knee bent. But you're just going to take 3 to 5 slow, steady breath cycles here, drawing that outer right hip away from your right shoulder, reaching up through the right big toe mound, ball of the foot, pressing the right thigh into the hands as you pull the hands into the thigh. Great. Very gently. If the left leg is straight, bend the left knee, put the left foot on the floor, and then go ahead and bend the right knee and plant the right foot next to the left foot. Pause and just see what you notice between the sides. And then we'll try that on the other side. So draw your left knee into your chest, interlace your hands at the back of the left thigh, and then start to kick your left foot up towards the sky. If this is going well for you, meaning you feel pretty open in the low back and in the hamstrings, you might play with extending the right leg long beneath you. And again, keep drawing that outer left hip from the left shoulder as you reach up through the left foot. Awesome sauce. You got about 2 more breath cycles here. And then at the end of your next exhalation, you'll gently bend the right knee if it was straight, plant the foot on the floor, and bend the left knee into the chest and plant the foot next to its mate. And then you'll just take a moment to pause. If you're feeling any discomfort in the low back, go ahead and walk your feet wider than your hips. Let your feet stay on the floor, but inhale, open your knees out. And then exhale, hug them in. And you'll just take about 4 sets of those. So the wider your feet are, the easier that is for the internal rotation. And this is just really working with the 2 innominate bones of the pelvis so that they can allow the sacrum to come back into its symmetry. Great. When you feel complete with that little practice, you'll go ahead and come to stillness in center. Now you've got 2 options here. Option number 1 is to take a supported bridge. Option number 2 is to take a supported legs up the wall. So you choose whichever one feels like that might be best for you, but you'll slide a block or blocks underneath your sacrum. You'll lift your hips high. Maybe you'll just stay there with the block supporting the pelvis and the feet on the floor. You might choose to then extend the legs up. Yeah. And if you're doing the more active version of shoulder stand, make sure that the shoulder blades are coming towards each other, towards the center of the spine. And then make sure that, yeah, make sure that you feel space under the cervical spine. So it feels like the tops of the shoulders are pushing more into the floor. The back of the skull is pushing into the floor, but your cervical spine is arcing away from the floor. And then wherever you are, feet reach up, inner thighs hug together, and you're just pausing and you're breathing. And you've got about 3 to 5 more breath cycles here. And you're just noticing how long the breath is. At the end of your next exhalation, if you're in that modified shoulder stand, start to carefully come out. If you're in Viparita Karani, legs at the wall, start to bend the knees and slowly plant the feet on the floor. And then you'll slowly bring yourself back down to your backs. And go ahead and extend your legs long. And then I'd like you to just check in and notice what you notice. How is your body feeling? What final shapes or shape might feel really good to you? And you'll take that opportunity to explore that. It's very interesting. One of the best forms of support is freedom of choice. And yet, I don't know if that's something we always consider. We are given the opportunity to do what's best for us, and that in and of itself is a form of support because it supports our autonomy, our independence. But it also supports our ability to connect with another person, to come into communion in a way that's really mm, welcoming is not the right word, but that's the word that comes up right now. So as you continue to just explore whatever you're doing for the next minute or so, I'd like you to just notice the breath. How does the breath move when you feel like you are being supported? When you feel like you're being nurtured or nourished or cherished or loved? How does it feel to you? Once you feel complete doing whatever the heck you're doing, you will make your way to your final resting pose. It might be a constructive rest, it might be Supta Baddha Konasana, it might be straight up old Shavasana. You choose the option that feels best for you. And then once you're established in your posture, we're going to start by doing a body scan. So we'll start at the crown of your head and notice where you can allow more softness, maybe in the forehead, around the scalp, where you can allow more weight into the back of the skull and into the jaw, where you can allow more broadening of the collarbones and settling of the scapula, how you can allow the elbows to just drop into the floor and maybe even the backs of the hands. Travel your awareness down the spine and notice which parts of the vertebra rest into the floor. And notice which parts of the vertebra have a bit of spaciousness from the floor. Draw your awareness to the pelvis, observing the right side and the left side, and seeing if the backs of the hips can just soften a bit more. Noticing how that might create a greater sense of softening, opening along the fronts of the hips. Notice where the thighs are, and the knees are, and how they can relinquish any effort that they might continue to have or be exerting. Drawing your awareness down the calves and the shins and seeing where you might find spaciousness in those muscle groups. Paying attention to the ankles and the heels and the soles of the feet. And noticing how you can allow more softness, more trust, more gratitude for the support that these appendages bring us every day as we move through our lives. Now you'll take the next few moments or so just continuing to allow your awareness to rest on whatever sensation is present in the body. And as best as you can, allow the breath to go to those parts of the body and just be with them. Just as Sandy mentioned at the beginning, our breath is like that present companion that it helps us feel seen and heard. And you'll spend the next few minutes doing that. I'll let you know when it's time to come out. Gently return your awareness as you come back. Take a moment to check in, noticing whatever you happen to notice. Very gently, you'll start to invite small movement into the body, whatever way feels nurturing and nourishing to you. Slowly, you'll make your way onto your side and slowly draw yourself up to sit. And you just take a moment to pause, sit as tall as you can, do any little last minute fidgets. The whole purpose of practice is made for this one moment. And you'll sit with your hands wherever is comfortable, Stacking your head over your shoulders, shoulders over your hips. And you'll just take 3 to 5 breaths here. Gently draw your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the thumbs into the sternum and then lift the heart towards the hands. Allow your chin to soften towards your chest. The light within me honors and salutes the light within both of you. Namaste.